Hello, welcome to the School Improvement Institute video on steering team recruitment. My name is Sue Reynolds and I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute. First of all, thank you for starting SI2 in your school. We know that that means that you care about your community's young people and that you're committed to raising student achievement in your school and community. And we really appreciate that. So we just wanted to start with a thank you to you for being that person who started SI2. So your first task as the SI2 initiator is to convene a steering team. And this video will help you think about different aspects of convening that steering team so that the steering team you end up with is one that's going to put you in a good place for success. So let's begin by looking at the SI2 organizational structure. Our structure is based on the movement approach to education reform that was developed by Parker Palmer. Palmer says that change starts with an isolated individual, and that individual then builds the change into a group of mutual support, friends and colleagues that the initial person has convinced that this new idea is something worth looking at. And then those people reach out and touch other people until the initiative becomes a public issue or the idea becomes a public issue. And then finally, with everybody reaching out, change starts to happen, and the goal then is to end up with cultural change. So SI2's movement approach is based on this movement approach to education reform. And in our organizational structure then, our change is starting with that isolated individual, you. You are then reaching out to others for mutual support, and you're doing that through convening your steering team. The steering team then will also reach out to others, and you'll continue to grow this initiative. As they reach out to others, more people will become involved as part of the School Improvement Council. And then finally, as the movement continues to grow, you'll end up with cultural change. And the culture that we're hoping for is a culture that expects and supports academic rigor. So in SI2, there are three organizational structures. The first one is the School Improvement Council. The council members are actually the decision makers. They will look at student data, they'll have discussions, and then they'll make decisions. They'll make decisions about the direction that your school is going in, what goals you want to set, what's getting in the way of those goals, and then what interventions you'll put in place to address the things that are getting in the way so that achievement can go up. SI2 is very inclusive. We want every single voice to be at the table. So your School Improvement Council will be open to all educators, and we love it when every single teacher in the building is part of the council. All parents, and also the council is open to all community members. So your council is a very inclusive group and is open to anyone who has a stake in raising student achievement. Then the second group of the organizational structure is the entire student body. We want every student to have a voice in school improvement. And we have found that students really get what needs to happen in order for them to achieve at a higher level. They know. So we'll involve students in the discussion, and the discussion that the kids have will mirror the discussions that the School Improvement Council is having. And then finally, the third group is the steering team. The steering team are really the school improvement managers. They're the worker bees. They're going to be collecting data. They'll be facilitating the council discussions. They'll be facilitating the student body discussions. And then they'll be helping the council make decisions as you work through the school improvement process. So let's look at the steering team members. And again, our goal is to create a steering team that's really going to set you up for success. So over the years, over the 20 years that our organization has been working with school improvement, we've had several different models for steering team makeup. And for about the last 10 years, we've stuck with this model because it has really worked well for our schools. So one member of the steering team should be the principal, and then there's two 2 teachers, and in middle schools and high schools we'd like one of those teachers to be a math teacher, because math courses tend to be such gatekeeper courses for high achievement. Then also school counselor, and then also somebody from representing economic development. So ideally that would be someone from your county's economic development council or your community's economic development council. That would be the ideal. But we could also work with someone from your Chamber of Commerce, or someone in a local business who has a high-level position and is responsible for human resources. So any of those 3 types of folks would be a great member of your steering team. And then finally, the 6th member is a parent. Then, as an optional member, if your school has any other school improvement initiatives like Title I, Project Lead the Way, High Schools at Work, you may want to invite someone from those initiatives to also be a member of your steering team. We believe it's very important for all of your school improvement initiatives to be coordinated with one another, and so bringing someone in from those other initiatives to sit on the steering team might be very helpful in coordinating all of your initiatives. Okay, so we have those 6 required members, but we also would like at least one of your members to have one of these characteristics. So we'd like at least one member to have the ability to allocate resources, specifically the resource of time and funding, but most important, the resource of time. In most steering teams, it's the principal who has the ability to allocate resources. So in most school improvement steering teams, it would be the principal that brings that to the table. Then we'd like at least one of your steering team members to be someone who has credibility. So you might think about your staff meetings, and when a new idea comes up, who's the person that everybody looks at to see how they're reacting? And they know that if Joe says this is okay, then it must be an okay idea. That's who we want to be on your steering team, is that person that the other faculty members, other administrators look to for giving a thumbs up to different initiatives, that person who has credibility. Then a third quality we would like at least one steering team member to have is someone who's just a natural leader. It may not be someone who has a title like principal or assistant principal, but just someone who has the ability to engage others, that others want to follow, who's that natural leader. And then a fourth characteristic that we'd like to have on your steering team is someone who's just a natural teacher, someone who just naturally can engage students, who just naturally motivates kids, who's good at explaining, who's good at assessing, where students are and if they need to go back and repeat content. So just who's that natural teacher, and if they can be on your steering team, that's wonderful. And then finally, someone who has the ability to drop the hammer. And again, in most steering teams, that's probably going to be the principal. This is important because while we want people to engage in school improvement because they want to help kids and they understand why high achievement is so important. We know that in reality you may be able to get 98% of the faculty to come on board, but there may be a couple of holdouts, and there may be a point where the person who has the authority to drop the hammer just has to say, in our school we're interested in raising achievement, this is the direction that we are taking, and the expectation is that you'll come along with that. So we need somebody to be able to drop that hammer, and again, in most cases that's going to be your principal. But it may not be. It may be a colleague that just is able to do that with other colleagues. Okay, and then finally, it's very helpful if all of your team members have some kind of history with change making. It could be change at school, but it could also be change in a youth service group or change in a faith-based organization. But it's very helpful if your steering team members do have some experience with change. Oops, I think I went the wrong way. Let me go back here. Sorry about that, and we'll pick up where we were. Here we are. Okay, so when you invite your steering team members to join the steering team, probably one of the questions you're going to get is, okay, what does this entail? So we wanted to look at the responsibilities for your steering team members. So one responsibility is to participate in leadership development that our organization will provide. We'd like your steering team members to watch a monthly video like the one you're watching now. That video will highlight the tasks that are coming up that month and give you some tips on how to do them well. Then we'd also like your steering team members to attend a monthly small learning community meeting. That will take place as a webinar, and during that meeting we'll provide additional tips, but you also will have a chance to give progress reports from your school, to celebrate successes that other schools or your school's having, to discuss challenges and to brainstorm solutions to challenges with other schools. So we really would like your steering team to participate in these small learning community meetings that will occur as webinars. And then finally, each of your steering team members will be asked to complete individualized tasks. So we're going to delegate tasks among your steering team. That way there's not too much work on any one person. So one person will have the assignment of collecting and entering into the online system the achievement data from your school. That actually is not too big of a task because our system will pull data off of other websites like the Department of Education website and drop it into your school's website. But if there's other data like Terra Nova or NWEA or other data that you want to include, that person would be responsible for collecting and entering that. Then a second person is responsible for doing the root cause self-studies. That is the surveying of your students and teachers and community members that we do. So that person would have those responsibilities. Third person is responsible for having the discussions with the student body. Another person is responsible for having making sure that the council is having discussions online. A fifth person is responsible for making sure that the council is coming to consensus around the decisions that need to be made. And then the sixth person is responsible for developing the interventions or strategies once they're in place. And that person will, of course, then will work with all the faculty and with the steering team. So, so that's the way that we delegate tasks. And then we can further delegate. Each person that's responsible for one of these 6 tasks can bring in their friends and helpers to help them get the work done. So that's the organizational structure, and each person on your steering team would have then the responsibility to oversee one of these 6 areas. The reason we have the worker bee on this screen is because it's incredibly important that the folks on your steering team are worker bees. They need to be people that will follow through on tasks, will do work well, will meet deadlines. If any one member of your steering team doesn't follow through, then the other 5 people have to pick up the work that they're not doing. So to make this all work well and to maintain the integrity of the work, we really need to make sure that all 6 people on your steering team are worker bees. Just a word of caution, anytime a school has struggled with the School Improvement Institute process, it's usually been because one or more people on the steering team are not worker bees. So we just want to really emphasize that as you're selecting people to be on your steering team, we really need to make sure that all 6 people will do tasks well, will follow through, will do it on time. That's just really, really important. Okay, so once the 6 people are identified, then we need to enter them into your SI2 online system. So wanted to introduce that to you real quickly. I'm going to come out of the webinar to here, or the video, or the PowerPoint, and I'm going to open up the online system. Okay, so to get to the online system, here's the address you want to go to, www.asainstitute.org/SI2. So www.asainstitute.org/SI2. Then on this intro page, you'll come over to the left navigation bar and click on Steering Teams. So we're going to log in as a steering team member. You'll put your username and password into the login boxes and then hit login. And that will bring you to the front page of your school's customized school improvement online system. So a couple things in negotiating the system. Sometimes you'll hear us talk about the top navigation bar. Those are these links up here in the top of your screen. Most of the time, though, you'll hear us talk about the left navigation bar. So that's the part over here on the left. And really, the only tabs you'll work with almost 100% of the time are the Process tab and the Manual tab, and really only the Process tab. The rest of these tabs are shortcut tabs that you'll get used to using down the road. But for right now, the one thing you need to remember is just use the Process tab. So, and actually, this is what I always do. I always just go in through the Process tab, so I click on Process, and that takes me to a page that shows me the process. And really, this is just a step-by-step process that is arranged chronologically, and you can see that we're in, a first year school, year one. You'll notice that we also have a different process for year two schools and alumni schools, but you're watching this video because you are a year one school, so we're in the year one tab. And then you can see we have different steps. So in September, we're getting organized. Also in September, we're going to convene the School Improvement Council. That's a different video. And then collecting data, and then you'll start having discussions with your council and with your student body. So the first one in November is just an introduction, and then in December, vision, and January, achievement goals, and then scrolling down. In February, you'll talk about root causes, and in March, identify your interventions. And then finally in April, you'll prepare to implement. So you can see everything's chronological, and the nice thing is you only have to worry about 1 month at a time. So all we're going to do right now is worry about September. The other thing I'd like to tell people about this page is that sometimes I think this page looks overwhelming because there's so many steps, but keep in mind that what we've done is we've taken each step and we've teased it out into mini steps. So really the only thing we're looking at right now is in September is convening your steering team and your council, just putting those two groups together, and we've just broken it out into the little steps. So as you're working through the steps, the first step is to read the introduction. So the introduction is in the tools column. Just click that. That'll open up, and then just read the introduction. Then when I'm finished reading, I'm going to go back to the Process tab. And again, anytime you get lost in the system, just go back to the Process tab. So I'm going to go back to the Process tab, and I've now read this, so I'm going to click it off that I've read it and save. Now this tells you later that this step is done, finished, and you don't need to do it again. Then I'm going to watch the video, which is what you're doing right now. When you're finished watching this video, click that you've watched it and save. Then the third step is to participate in the learning community, and that actually will happen about a week after this video becomes live. And to register for the video, you just click, or I'm sorry, to register for the learning community meeting, you just click on this icon in the Enter column. That will take you to Offsite. We use GoToWebinar, and you'll just register for that webinar. After you've registered, GoToWebinar will send you reminders to participate in the webinar. Okay. So after I've done that, I click it off, save, and now I'm ready to enter the SIP uses. I want to show you that real quickly. This is really important because this is where you customize your online system. So I'm going to click the Enter icon, And on here, I'm going to say I'm going to tell the system, how do I plan to use my school improvement plan when it's finished? Every time you click one of these, the system gets customized for your school. So almost all of the schools that we work with use their school improvement plan to meet the requirements for Indiana PL 221. Which deals with school improvement. So I'm going to click that one. And then if DOE has identified you as a priority or focus school, we want you to click those buttons as well. And what that will do is it drops in different components in your school improvement plan and forces you to address the things that the Department of Ed would like you to address if you are a priority or a focus school. And the same thing for Title I. If you're a Title I task school or Title I school-wide, if you click those things, will drop into your school improvement plan, and it kind of forces you then to create the different school improvement components that Title is looking for. So then I hit save, and we're good, and go back to the process tab, I'm going to enter that I have finished doing the SIP uses step. So then I'm going to save. Then my next step is to enter the steering team members. So, oops, haven't done that one yet. I'm going to go over, and now you'll see we have a lot of icons. I can click on the Enter Edit icon. I can click on the report icon, or when I'm finished with this step, or before when I was finished with the SIP uses, I can click the Submit for Review. So let's just take a real quick look at each of those icons. So I'm going to click on the Enter Edit icon. That brings up the page where I can enter steering team members, and I actually have already entered 5 members. I've entered everybody except for the parent. So you can see everybody's listed here. Here's my principal member, here's my teacher member, here's the school counselor. So they're all in except for the parents. So what I'm going to do is click Add a New Person, and I'll put this people's names in here. Jen Ross, and then her email address, and then her phone number, and then an evening phone, and then her position on the steering team, and she's coming in as the parent representative. So I'll click Parent, and then a mailing address, home city, home state, and then the zip. And then I simply save that person. Okay, so I can, if I scroll down, I'll see that Jen Ross is now entered, and she's the parent representative. So I've got all 6 members in now, and I'm going to go to the process page, and I've got all 6 members in, so I can hit the report, and you'll notice that I have 2 options on this report. One is that I can go to the report of the steering team members, so I just click on this report, and here's the report that lists all the steering team members, so I can print this, and if I want to distribute it at a steering team meeting or whatever. And then the other thing you can do is to email your steering team members. So if I click on this email tool, an email will come up, and I'm sorry, if you click on this tool, everybody's email addresses come up with commas in between them. And so I can just copy this and then put it into a 2-box. One thing we've learned is that Microsoft Outlook likes to use semicolons instead of commas. So if you're using that for your email, just click that, and you can see that puts semicolons in between the names. Okay, so you've got that tool, and then you've got also the roster report. Okay, so and then when I'm finished with this step, which I now am, I can also submit, and you'll see the deadline is here. So I'm going to submit this. I'm all finished, and I want the folks at ASA to review my work if you have selected that additional service from us. And I go ahead and submit. And then it wants to know, who is the person that's submitting this? Well, it's Jane Doe. And then this will, you'll be able to download this and identify what you are submitting. And then I'm just confirming that this is ready to review, and then hit submit. So, okay. So I have that step finished. I'm going to go back to the process page and click that off and then save. Okay, so that is, with this webcast, what you're going to be able to do. So after watching this webcast or video, you'll be able to do the first 5 steps. Then, after you've convened your steering team, the next thing you're going to do is sit down with your steering team, watch with them the next video, select your steering team's primary contact, your team positions, check the rubric items for everything, and then you'll be submitting work as you do. So for right now, you can only do up through step 5 based on this video. Then you'll convene your steering team and complete the rest of the tasks for getting organized. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. Just a few other things to address. So this month's submissions, the only thing that you're doing that aligns with this video is your steering team roster. So when you submit that, if you are doing the additional service with us, so our staff is actually reviewing your work, here's what we'll be checking for. So we're going to check to make sure that your steering team has on it your principal, math teacher, if it's a middle school or high school, another teacher, school counselor, parent, and somebody representing economic development. Then we're also going to make sure that you've included the name, phone number, mailing address, and email address for each of your steering team members. So that's what we'll be checking for. We know that these are things that you're going to need later in the online system as you start to communicate with folks. So we'll just check to make sure that this is all done. After we've checked your work, we'll assign a status to your work that will indicate that it meets all of this criteria, or we'd like you to make some revisions. Or another possibility is we say, it's okay this time, but we'd like you to see these comments, and we'll put some comments in for you. And anytime we ask you to make revisions, we also will put the comments in as well, so you know exactly what we'd like you to do. Okay, so after your steering team is in place then, as a follow-up to this video, the next things you want to do are to convene your steering team and watch with them the next video, which will help your steering team think about which tasks each member is going to do, and then who's going to be the contact person, the liaison to our organization. And so then we also want your steering team members, each individually, to register for the Learning Community webinar. We just saw how to do that in the online system, and then to attend the Learning Community webinar, which will happen about a week after we release each of the videos. And during those webinars, we'll be talking about tips. Your school will give a progress report. We'll talk about success and challenges, brainstorm where we need to with the other schools, and you'll have the ability to ask questions. Okay, so after watching this video or anywhere along the line, if you have a question, here's what we'd like you to do. So Mary Beth Granderson is on our staff. She is a strategic planning specialist, and she has been assigned to SI2. So anytime you have a question, Mary Beth is your person. All you need to do is pick up the phone, call the number that's on the screen, send her an email, and her sole responsibility is to help you. She is the person who is on call, ready to help you. So please, please don't hesitate to call Mary Beth. She's been working with SI2 for about 10 years. She's worked with hundreds of schools. She is just excellent, really knows her stuff. She's also very patient, and we know that when you're first starting SI2, sometimes it's overwhelming. You may be finishing this video and saying, okay, I don't get any of this. What do I do? Call Mary Beth. The other thing we wanted to point out is that we have this very important rule that we're very serious about. That's called the 5-minute rule. And that rule is that if you are ever confused for more than 5 minutes, you are required to call Mary Beth. We feel very strongly about that. We have all been educators, and we have all been on school improvement teams. And we know that you're probably doing this work during your passing time or your prep time or on your own personal time, and we don't want you to have to waste time trying to figure things out. So just call Mary Beth, say, I'm totally lost, or I have a specific question on this step, just whatever. We'd really encourage you to use her. So that is the conclusion of this video on steering team recruitment. Again, it is our pleasure to work with your school, and thank you so much for getting SI2 started in your school and for now doing that first step of convening your steering team.